great thing about being a certified natural health coach is you're not really going to have a lot of the liability that you're going to have as a practitioner. I mean, I know people that are just literally getting rid of their doctor licenses because it's a pain in the butt to even have a license these days. Of course, you're not prescribing. This is all about wellness. It's all about coaching. It's all about helping them change their life. But in reality, you're doing really the same thing that I've done in many other doctors that we've worked with for the last 30 years is just the simple way of allowing putting yourself in a state of cleanliness and detoxification and detoxifying the home, detoxifying the office. And really the whole purpose is teaching them how to reactivate their own body's self-healing mechanism. That's why our tagline is, we teach what nobody else does, which just amazes me. Sometimes I get aggravated because all these people come and send me emails and they're like, I'm seeing this top functional medicine doctor over here. And like, oh, really? What do they have you on? And it's like, they send me a list of like 40 different horrible supplements owned by Blackrock and Big Pharma. And I'm like, okay, so you're just literally supporting the enemy, even though we give the enemy love, because we don't want to create any disruptions in our biofield. I mean, it's like, why are you supporting all that? And then, these individuals, I ask them, I'm like, okay, well, what did you do to go through your house and clean your house up? I mean, what are all the toxins in your home? Where are all the toxins in your food that you're eating? All of the things that are coming into your system. What did they do about that? Did they ask you about your diet? Did they ask you about what you're drinking every single day? What did they do to detox you and heal your gut? What did they do to detox and heal your liver? What did they do to get all the parasites out of your body? What did they do to get all the chemicals and heavy metals out of your body? And then it's just like nothing. So that's why to be an accredited school from the state or the county, a naturopathic college, a chiropractic college, most of the health coach, organizations out there that want to have that state, country, county certification, then you have to follow a bunch of guidelines and rules and regulations. And part of those rules and regulations is you have to follow the rules. You can't diagnose, treat, cure, but then also it's still based upon symptomology. So we have to get that out of our head that we are not working on the symptoms. I mean, we are, but that's not really the main goal. The symptoms will go away if you work on the root cause and find out what is the cause of the situation. Like I had a call this morning on the way to work, somebody that I worked with years and years ago. And he calls me up and he's like, hey, I haven't talked to you in like 10 years, but my blood pressure's been going up. I've been having issues with my heart. And I went to see this doctor. They put me on Ozempic and they want me on metformin and they want me on all this stuff. And I'm like, you do know that Ozempic is a poison, right? Like it's made from Gila monster venom and it causes permanent damage to your vagus nerves. And, this is a big issue right now because all over the United States and all over the world, it's like the biggest trending thing for weight loss. And he's suffering from pre-diabetes, like on the verge of diabetes and everything. And he's talking to me for 5 minutes and he's like, yeah, they're doing this and they want to put me on this and they want to put me on that. And I just said, hey, can I ask you a question? He said, yeah. And he said, what do you think is causing your sugar levels to go out of whack? What do you think is causing you to have the diabetes and the heart issues? And then he just pauses and he starts thinking and he's like, well, I did a 3-day water fast about a couple months ago. And he goes, all my sugar levels came back to normal. And my blood pressure came back to normal after a 3-day water fast. And I was like, so what does that tell you? And he's like, okay, well, it probably has something to do with my diet, probably has something to do with, the amount of toxins and chemicals in my body. I said, so you remember me telling you that like 15, 20 years ago? And he said, yes. And I said, do you think that your body is deficient in metformin? Do you think your body is deficient in Ozempic? No, it's not. Okay, well, how would you feel about addressing the root cause of your issue instead of looking at addressing the symptoms of your issue? And I said, let me ask you another question. Did you get the shot? And he said, yes, I did get the shot. And, I actually, all this stuff started happening to me after I got the shot. And I said, yeah, because it induces diabetes, because it messes up your glucose pathways. And I said, and everybody's having high blood pressure or cardiovascular issues. So, I mean, that just tells you. And he goes, yeah, you know what's really weird? I went into my cardiologist's office a month ago, and my cardiologist, who's an MD, said to me, he said, I think that all your symptoms that you're suffering from are because you got the shot. And he was like, I was so surprised that my MD cardiologist said that. And I was like, that is a good sign. That means we're making progress when you start having the MDs and the cardiologists out there starting to notice that. He said, my office, since that shot, he goes, the only thing I can pinpoint from all these patients, 40% rise in patients since 2020, this cardiologist had, is that all of these individuals had the Moderna or the Pfizer bioweapon. It's all about lifestyle. It's all about past emotions. I was thinking, if you just open up to the universe and allow things to come in and you ask questions, a lot of times you'll get those answers. You can get really good at it. And so what's been happening to me over the last week is I've been getting a lot of messages that we need to start talking more about emotions, and we need to start talking more about releasing emotions and forgiveness. Forgiveness is like really one of the biggest factors in the healing process whenever you're working with clients and you're, going through the whole process of helping them clean in their home environment and their internal environment and detoxing and putting them on different types of programs for regeneration and repair. That's something that we're going to be talking about a little bit more and more. Now, probably do a mini course on emotional release and forgiveness. There are a few different really good techniques that we can talk about eventually for forgiveness. But that's like these emotions that get held in for so long. It's actually really hard for people sometimes to just release emotions. Healers always are thinking about other people first, and they're pleasers and they're doers. Good, they do good for people all the time, and sometimes it's really difficult for them to take care of their own health. I personally think that we'll probably add one more book to the health coach certification course, which will be Carol Trueman's book, which is called Feelings Buried Alive Never Die. It's one of my favorite books. I always read other people's books, and I might not agree with everything in the books, but you know what? I might get a couple gems out of those books. So don't think that you only need to be focusing in on what I'm saying and reading the books that I'm doing. The more you expand your knowledge, the better off you're going to be. And then you can start putting pieces together, because everybody's different, and you can still gain a lot of knowledge from that.